back to Tactics Talk with Guido. Thanks for tuning in on this episode. I've got a 3-mark game from Madogthefirst, Clan Shire, and his BDR G1B. Tier 5 in an all Tier 5 battle on Cliff. He's loaded into the south side. You know, when you got a tank like the BDR G1B, which is not very popular, and it's supposedly known as a kind of bad tank, not a lot of people get replays on it, learn how to fight it, or even really pay much attention to it. The thing about that is, though, whatever the tank in the game, you've got to play to its strengths. So if you know what its strengths are, and you play to those strengths, and you know how to play the game, then you can probably make nearly any tank in the game perform. And that's what we're going to see here out of Mad Dog. He's going to take what is arguably a mediocre tank. I actually think it's slightly above average, based on its gun at its tier. But it's got problems, right? It's very tall, not necessarily too fast. Gun's fantastic. It's got that big tumor, which every time you play the poking game comes up over the hill first and tends to collect shots into it. But the point of all that is that you need to go ahead and look at your tank and play to its strengths. Plus, use all the mechanics in the game that you understand to play the tank. So he's going to roll in here to the center. There's really two options. You can go over to the west side. There's three, in fact. You can go all the way to the east side around the mountain, or you can come up here and work towards some of the strengths of this tank. Despite that tumor up there, as long as you're moving a little bit and you get a little lateral movement side to side while you're poking, you can actually minimize the amount of shots that will go into it. So you see this M4 is being unwise, and he eats 252. Now that's part of that great gun on the BDR. It's going to drop that 250 alpha. More with the good roll, and it just really, at this tier, is quite the bruiser. And the damage is a 240 alpha. So he puts a couple shots. He's just being patient back here. There is one small arty kind of bombing away over here, and he's just going to work this back side. There's lots of customers here. He's going to be patient. You'll notice that the aim time on the gun does take a while. So instead of rushing a shot, he takes a little while to aim in. The T-14 wasn't really looking at him, so that was a good idea. And he punishes that guy. Notice he hasn't even dabbed 2 yet. That's the other thing about this gun. Pretty good penetration. Let's check it out here. Looks like 135 with the gold up to 175. But 135 is pretty much all you need for just about everything here. He's trying to get a little corner of this KV-1 here if you can get just a little pixel off of him, but the 01 experimental comes up. And we take a bit of a slap there from the HE, but he's got that little derp gun on it. Fixes his driver right away. That's something you really need to think about improving if you don't do that already. Just about any crew member other than a radio operator of mine that dies, I will fix immediately just to keep my top combat effectiveness going for as long as possible. He's just going to aim in. He had all the time in the world. Takes that guy down. And so he's just playing to the strengths of the BDR. Good gun depression, good gun. Guys shoot, he comes around. Takes another hit. That's alright. The 01 puts a little bit more on him. Does need to be a little bit careful he doesn't get pinned in the side. That would be painful. The reload on that gun's pretty long, so he comes in there and punishes the 01 and takes him down. And I mentioned that the accuracy on this gun is not great, but of course, shots you don't take always miss. So we'll see Mad Dog come around this corner. He's collected 1,300. Poor T-67 trying to get away. Oh my goodness gracious. Down he goes. And that was pretty important. I think they would eventually obviously won this game, but it might have been a pain to dig that T-67 out had he been able to get up to the top. Now we're going to come around this way, look for the T1. No shot there. Looking around. I'm going to stop it here because Mad Dog doesn't actually get any more damage out of this game. Only thing I would say, Mad Dog, on a couple of these, you're down to the last 2 or 3 tanks. I think I might have just popped off that shot and seen what happened right there. He is very careful with his shots, and he tends to hit them when he takes the shot. So I'm not arguing that your shoot technique or your targeting technique is bad. I'm just saying at this portion of the game where more than likely all those guys down there are going to kill him before you do, just take a shot. And it actually happens again later when you come up against the whatever's left there, the 3001H. I think you probably could have taken a shot and you were letting it aim in for quite a long time, being very careful. But the corollary to that is sometimes if you take rush shots in more important situations, you end up missing. So in any event, 1,500 damage, 272 assist, 110 block, but ends up being his 3-mark game on the BDR. For those of you who are interested in 3 marks, if you start down at the tier 5, 6 level and work on it down there, you can kind of get a feel for how the things go. The fact that you need to do damage no matter what's going on, even in a loss, so which means you need to be a little more careful with your tank if you're pushing for those 3 marks. That requirement only gets more and more as you get higher and attempt to 3-mark 8s, 9s, and 10s. But if you get a little practice down at the tier 5 and 6 level, that will start to help you out above, because it is a slightly different gameplay style. You can certainly just play as normal, and if 3 marks happen, they happen. But if you're actually actively going after them, the play style is slightly different. I would call it a little more careful, not campy, but careful, aggressively careful, I guess I would say, because you do need to have the gun in the game, but you also need to preserve your life as long as possible in both wins and losses so that you can get the maximum damage out there. But anyway, Mad Dog, nice job. A great example of somebody taking what is considered a mediocre tank. Like I said, I think it's slightly above average, but playing to its strengths and doing a really nice job with it, and also understanding the rest of the mechanics of the game, such that you can take any tank in this game really and do well in it. Alright guys, hope you like what you saw, hope you learned something. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and as always, we will see you.